The wind howled across the Montana plains, carrying the scent of dust and freedom. But it couldn't drown out the pounding of my heart. I stood at the edge of the ranch, my boots sinking into the dry earth, staring at a horizon that felt too vast, too untamed. For someone like me, I'd come to help, to escape the city's noise. But the cowboy watching me from the barn's shadow had eyes that promised trouble. My name's Eli Carter, 28, a graphic designer from Seattle who'd burned out on deadlines and fluorescent lights. I'd signed up for a volunteer program at Willow Creek Ranch, expecting hard work, fresh air, and maybe a chance to sketch the wide-open spaces. The website had promised community, purpose, and a simpler life. It hadn't mentioned him, Jasper Reed, the 35-year-old ranch hand whose gaze felt like a storm cloud breaking. Jasper was all edges, broad shoulders, calloused hands, and a jawline sharp enough to cut through the tension between us. His blue eyes locked onto mine as I approached, not with welcome, but with something fiercer, like he was sizing up an intruder. I adjusted my backpack, my sketchbook poking out, and tried to smile. I'm Eli, here to help, I said, my voice thinner than I'd hoped. Help. Jasper's drawl was low, skeptical. He pushed off the barn, his boots kicking up dust. We don't need city boys playing at Cowboy. His words stung, but his eyes got. Those eyes held something softer, something that flickered like a secret he wasn't ready to share. I wasn't out. Not really. Seattle was progressive. Sure. But I kept my heart locked tight, too busy surviving to explore who I might love. Jasper, though, radiated a kind of raw defiance, like he'd fought battles I couldn't imagine. The other volunteers, mostly college kids and retirees, buzzed around, unloading supplies. But Jasper's attention stayed on me. It was unsettling. It was electric. The ranch owner, Clara, a wiry woman in her 60s with a no-nonsense braid, clapped her hands. All right, folks, pair up for chores. Eli, you're with Jasper. My stomach flipped. Jasper's lip twitched. Not quite a smirk. And he jerked his head toward the stables. Move it, city boy. The stables smelled of hay and leather. And Jasper worked fast, tossing me a pitchfork like it was a challenge. You ever mucked a stall? He asked, already knowing the answer. I shook my head, gripping the handle too tightly. He snorted but stayed close, showing me how to shovel without wasting energy. His arm brushed mine once, twice, and each time, my pulse stuttered. I told myself it was the work, the heat, anything but the way his presence filled the space. By noon, my hands were blistered, and Jasper hadn't said more than 10 words. But when I fumbled a water bucket, spilling it across my boots, he laughed a real laugh, warm and rough like gravel. You're a mess, Eli, he said, and for a moment, his guard dropped. I saw it, a crack in the armor, a glimpse of someone who might have been hurt before he learned to push people away. That night, around the campfire, the volunteers swapped stories. I sketched in my journal, capturing the curve of Jasper's profile against the flames. He caught me staring, and instead of calling me out, he held my gaze, his expression unreadable. Clara mentioned the ranch's history, how it had been a haven for misfits, people who didn't fit elsewhere. I wondered if Jasper was one of them. I wondered if I was. As the fire died, Jasper stood, brushing dirt from his jeans. Don't get too comfortable, he muttered, passing me. This place breaks soft things. His words hung in the air. A warning or a confession? I couldn't tell. But as I lay in my bunk later, the Montana stars blazing through the window, I knew one thing. I wasn't here just to help. I was here to find something maybe someone in Jasper's eyes told me he was searching, too. The next morning, the ranch woke early, roosters crowing like they owned the place. My muscles ached from yesterday's work. But Jasper was already up, hauling feed sacks like they weighed nothing. I caught myself watching him, the way his flannel stretched across his back, and quickly looked away, focusing on the coffee Clara handed me. "Keep up with him," she said, nodding toward Jasper. "He's tough, but he's worth it." Worth it. The word stuck with me as I followed Jasper to the pasture. We were fixing fences today, a job that sounded simple but wasn't. The sun climbed higher, and sweat soaked my shirt as I struggled to drive posts into the hard ground. Jasper worked beside me, silent but steady, his hammer strikes precise. I wanted to ask him anything to break the quiet, but every time I opened my mouth, his intensity stopped me. Around midday, we stopped for water under a lone oak tree. Jasper leaned against it, his hat tipped back, revealing a scar above his eyebrow. I wanted to ask about it, about him, but instead, I blurted, "Why do you hate city people?" He raised an eyebrow, surprised, then chuckled darkly. "Don't hate him. Just don't trust him. They come. They leave. They break things." His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of pain. I swallowed, my throat dry despite the water. "I'm not here to break anything," I said softly. He studied me, like he was trying to decide if I was lying. "We'll see," he said finally, tossing me the hammer. "Prove it." The rest of the day, I worked harder than I ever had, driven by his challenge. My hands bled through the bandages I'd wrapped, but I didn't complain. Jasper noticed, though. When we finished, he grabbed my wrist, inspecting the blisters. "You're stubborn," he said, almost impressed. His touch lingered a second too long, and my breath caught. He dropped my hand quickly, turning away. That evening, Clara gathered us for a community dinner in the main house. The long table was crowded with volunteers, but Jasper sat at the far end, alone, picking at his food. I took a seat across from him, ignoring the safer option of joining the chatty college kids. "You don't talk much," I said, trying to sound casual. He shrugged. "Words don't fix much." But when I mentioned my sketches, his eyes lit up, just for a second. "Show me sometime," he said, and it felt like a door cracking open. Later, as we washed dishes, our elbows bumped in the cramped kitchen. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm. I asked about the ranch, hoping to keep him talking. He told me it had been his home for 10 years, since he was 25, running from something he wouldn't name. "This place keeps you honest," he said. "No room for lies out here." I wondered if he meant the land or himself. Before bed, I sat on the porch, sketching the oak tree from earlier. Jasper appeared, silent, and sat beside me. He didn't speak, just watched as my pencil moved. When I showed him the drawing, he nodded, almost reverent. "You see things," he said quietly. "Most people don't." His shoulder brushed mine, and neither of us moved away. In that moment, under the vast Montana sky, I felt something shift, something dangerous, something alive. A week into the volunteer program, the ranch felt less foreign, but Jasper remained a mystery. Every morning, I woke expecting his gruff dismissal, but he'd started seeking me out for chores, his silence less hostile, more companionable. I caught myself waiting for those moments, his low voice, his rare smiles like they were oxygen. Today, we were herding cattle, a task I was woefully unprepared for. Jasper rode ahead on a chestnut mare, his movements fluid, like he was part of the horse. I followed on a borrowed gelding, clumsy and nervous, my sketchbook tucked safely in my saddlebag. The herd moved sluggishly, and Jasper shouted instructions, his voice cutting through the dust. Stay left. Eli. Don't let him scatter. I tried. But a calf bolted. And I froze, unsure how to react. Jasper wheeled his horse around, closing the gap in seconds. Move. City boy. He barked. But there was no malice. Just urgency. He guided the calf back, then shot me a look half exasperated, half amused. You're gonna kill me, he muttered. But his grin made my chest tighten. I wanted to be better. For him. At the riverbank, we let the horses rest. Jasper knelt to splash water on his face, and I noticed the way his shirt clung to his damp skin, the way his hands moved with quiet strength. I looked away, embarrassed by my own thoughts. I wasn't supposed to feel this way out here. Not for him. But when he caught my eye, his expression softened, like he knew. You ever think about staying somewhere like this? He asked, out of nowhere. I hesitated. Never had a reason to. I admitted. He nodded, staring at the water. Sometimes you don't know you need a reason till it finds you. His words hung between us, heavy with meaning I wasn't ready to unpack. That night, a storm rolled in, thunder shaking the bunkhouse. I couldn't sleep, my mind replaying Jasper's voice, his touch. I slipped outside, rain soaking my clothes, and found him on the porch, staring into the dark. Can't sleep either. I asked. He shook his head. Storms make me think too much. I sat beside him, our knees almost touching. The rain drowned out the world. And for once, I felt brave. What do you think about? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, things I can't have. His eyes met mine, raw and unguarded, and my heart stopped. I wanted to ask what he meant, but the words stuck. Instead, I reached out, my hand brushing his. He didn't pull away. For a moment, we sat there, the storm raging, our fingers barely touching, and it felt like the world had narrowed to just us. The storm left the ranch muddy and chaotic, mirroring the tangle in my head. Jasper and I hadn't spoken about that moment on the porch, but it lingered in every glance, every accidental touch. I was falling for him, and it terrified me. I'd never let myself want someone this way, not when I'd spent years avoiding who I was. Today, we were repairing a barn roof, the sun beating down on us. Jasper worked shirtless, his skin bronzed and scarred, and I tried not to stare. He caught me once, smirking, but didn't call me out. Instead, he tossed me a hammer, his fingers grazing mine. Focus, Eli, he said, but his tone was teasing, almost fond. I blushed, hating how easily he unraveled me. Halfway through, Clara called Jasper away for an errand. Alone, I climbed higher, determined to prove myself. But the ladder slipped, and I fell, landing hard in the dirt. Pain shot through my ankle, and I cursed, clutching it. Jasper was back in an instant, his face pale. What the hell? Eli. He knelt beside me, his hands gentle as he checked my injury. You're a damn fool, he said, but his voice shook. He carried me to the main house, ignoring my protests. Clara bandaged my ankle, scolding us both, but Jasper stayed close, his hand resting on my shoulder. You gotta be careful, he said later, when we were alone. I can't, he stopped, jaw tight. Can't what? I pressed, my heart racing. He looked away, conflicted. Can't lose anyone else. That night, he told me about his past, not all of it, but enough. He'd grown up in a small Montana town, where being gay wasn't just frowned upon. It was dangerous. He'd loved someone once, a ranch hand like him, but it ended badly. Rumors, threats, exile. I swore I'd never do that again. he said, his voice barely audible. But then you showed up. I reached for his hand, my heart pounding. I'm not going anywhere, I said. He squeezed my fingers, his eyes searching mine. You don't know what you're promising, he whispered. But he didn't let go. For the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. My ankle kept me off heavy chores, but Jasper made sure I wasn't useless. He brought me to the tack room, teaching me to mend saddles, his hands guiding mine over leather and thread. His closeness was intoxicating, but every touch felt like a risk, like we were dancing on a knife's edge. I wanted to tell him how I felt, but fear held me back, fear of rejection, of ruining this fragile thing between us. The other volunteers started noticing. A college kid, Mia, teased me about shadowing Jasper, her tone playful but curious. I laughed it off, but Jasper's jaw tightened when he overheard. Later, he pulled me aside. People talk, he said, his voice low. You gotta be careful what you let him see. I nodded, but it hurt. The reminder that we couldn't just be. That afternoon, we rode out to check the herd. My ankle just strong enough for a slow horse. The prairie stretched endlessly, and Jasper seemed freer out here, his guard lower. You ever feel like you're running from yourself? He asked, staring at the horizon. I nodded, my throat tight. All the time, I said. But out here, I feel closer to who I am. He looked at me, his eyes soft but intense. You make it hard to keep my walls up, Eli. Before I could respond, he spurred his horse forward, ending the moment. But his words stayed with me, a spark of hope in the chaos of my feelings. That night, a local rancher, Tom, visited for dinner. He was loud, brash, and his comments about city folk and outsiders felt pointed. When he made a crude joke about soft boys, Jasper's fork froze midair. I saw the anger in his eyes, but he stayed silent, his knuckles white. After Tom left, I found Jasper by the corral, pacing. He doesn't know me, he spat. No one does. I do, I said, stepping closer. Or I want to. He stopped, his breath uneven. Then, in a rush, he closed the distance, kissing me fiercely, desperately. It was over too soon, and he pulled back, eyes wide with fear. We can't, he said, but his hands were still on me, trembling. I didn't know what to say, so I just held on, hoping it was enough. The kiss changed everything. Jasper avoided me the next day, his eyes guarded, his voice clipped. I felt raw, exposed, like I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. But I didn't regret it. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt his lips, his hands, the way he'd held me like I was both his salvation and his ruin. We were assigned to clear a trail, just the two of us. The silence was unbearable, broken only by the crunch of gravel underfoot. Finally, I couldn't take it. Jasper, talk to me, I said, dropping my axe. He froze, his back to me. What's there to say? We can't do this. His voice was rough, but it cracked on the last word. Why not? I demanded, stepping closer. Because of people like Tom. Because of this place. He turned, his eyes blazing. Because I've seen what happens when you let yourself want this. It ends in pain. Eli. Always. I reached for him, but he stepped back. I'm not worth it, he said, and it broke something in me. I spent the day in a haze, my heart at war with itself. That evening, Clara pulled me aside. Jasper's been through hell, she said quietly. His family disowned him when he was 19. The man he loved didn't make it. Be patient with him. Her words hit hard, filling in the gaps of Jasper's story. I wanted to fix it, to take away his pain, but I didn't know how. Later, I found him by the river, skipping stones. I sat beside him, silent, until he spoke. "I'm scared, Eli," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "I want you, but I don't know how to do this without losing everything again." I took his hand, my heart pounding. "You won't lose me," I said. "I'm here." He looked at me, tears in his eyes, and for the first time, he didn't pull away. The ranch felt different now, like the air itself held our secret. Jasper and I stole moments, a brush of hands, a shared glance, but we were careful, too aware of the world around us. I wanted more, but I knew he needed time, and I'd wait as long as it took. We were branding cattle, a chaotic, smoky job that left little room for thought. Jasper worked with focus, but I caught him watching me, his eyes softer than before. During a break, he pulled me behind the barn, kissing me quickly, fiercely. "Your trouble," he murmured, but he was smiling, and it felt like a victory. Trouble came, though. Tom, the rancher, returned, this time with a few locals. They drank too much, their laughter mean. One of them, a guy named Hank, saw Jasper and me laughing together and sneered. "What's this? Reed, got yourself a new pet." Jasper's face darkened, but he stayed silent, his fists clenched. I wanted to say something, but Jasper's warning glance stopped me. That night, Hank cornered me outside the bunkhouse. "You don't belong here," he slurred, his breath sour. "And Jasper, he's bad news. Ask around." I pushed past him, my heart racing, but his words gnawed at me. I found Jasper by the fire, his face tight. "Ignore them," he said, but I could see the fear in his eyes, the same fear I felt. Later, in the quiet of the bunkhouse, Jasper slipped into my bunk, his body warm against mine. "I don't care what they say," he whispered. "I want this. I want you." We didn't sleep, just held each other, the world outside forgotten. For the first time, I believed we could make it. The final days of the volunteer program loomed, and with them, a choice I wasn't ready to make. Seattle waited, but so did Jasper, and the life I'd found here felt more real than anything I'd left behind. We worked side by side, our rhythm natural now, but the weight of my departure hung over us. One morning, Hank and his crew showed up again, this time openly hostile. They'd heard rumors about Jasper, about us. "You think you can just waltz in here and play house?" Hank spat, shoving Jasper. I stepped between them, my heart pounding. "Back off," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Jasper grabbed my arm, pulling me back, but the fire in his eyes said he was done hiding. That night, Clara called a meeting. She stood tall, her voice firm. "This ranch is a home for everyone," she said, staring down Hank. "If you can't respect that, leave." The locals muttered but backed off, and I saw pride in Jasper's eyes. Later, he pulled me to the riverbank, the stars bright above us. "You stood up for me," he said, his voice thick. "No one's done that before." I took his face in my hands. "I love you," I said, the words spilling out. He kissed me, slow and deep, and when he pulled back, he was crying. "I love you, too," he said. "Stay, Eli, please." I nodded, my own tears falling. Seattle could wait. This was home. The next day, I told Clara I was staying. She smiled, unsurprised. "You're one of us now," she said. Jasper and I worked the ranch together, building a life from the ground up. It wasn't easy, whispers persisted. and the world wasn't always kind, but we faced it together. The cowboy's eyes had said he wanted anything but help. But what he needed was love. And I'd found it, too, in the wide-open heart of Montana.